Welcome to Chosen Few Expats. My name is Alonzo. Today we're going to be covering 25 things to never expect in Panama. Before we get into this video, I wanted to announce an addition or correction to one thing I stated in our 15 negatives of living in Panama video, if you got a chance to see that, regarding to bill payments. So with your energy bill payment, Naturgy, you can pay that online if you have a Panama bank account. That's something that I neglected to mention that I should have mentioned. I know a lot of people don't necessarily want a Panama bank account. So it's something that we put in there. Oftentimes you're doing these videos off of a small set of notes and bullet points. You know, you're up here talking 15 or 20 minutes. Almost every single one of them, there's something you forget to mention. Most of the time it's not something that's a big enough deal to come back and mention again like this to correct. But this one I felt like we needed to correct. So apologies for that. So with that, let's get into these 25 things for you to never expect in Panama. So the first thing you should never expect in Panama, number 25, are a lot of vegan options. If you are vegan, you shouldn't expect a lot of vegan options away from the city. In the city, some vegans will probably say the options aren't as plentiful as in the States, Canada, or Europe. But at least it's a large metropolitan area of 1.4 million people. So they do have some options there, and the options are growing daily in the city for vegan options. But once you're away from the city, you can expect to have more limited options. I mean, you may be okay in some places like Boquete because a lot of expats live there. It's expat-centric. But in general, you should not expect a lot of vegan options away from the city. Number 24. The number 24 thing you should never expect in Panama is for the laws to remain the same forever. Now, I know you say, okay, Alonzo, you shouldn't expect that anywhere. Or a lot of these items, you may not expect in a lot of different places. That's true, but things change very, very quickly here in Panama. One thing we like to say about Panama is that it is consistently inconsistent. So things are changing all the time, no matter what it is you're talking about, whether it's the laws or the weather or any number of things we're going to cover in this video. So you should not expect, for the laws to remain the same. So basically, if you're doing your research and you are a year and a half, a year, 2 years out from your move, whatever it is you're checking on that may impact you, you better keep an eye on it because it could be subject to change. Similar to what we got smacked with the change in the Friendly Nations visa rules that we covered in a video in the past when the government fairly abruptly changed the laws for the Friendly Nations visa. So, number 23. The number 23 thing you should never expect in Panama is for liquor to be sold over every holiday weekend. Some of the holidays in Panama, just like in the States and other places, you have Memorial Day in the States. Some of the holidays here are for solemn occasions, and you will oftentimes see the local government come down with a law basically saying, hey, no liquor to be sold from Friday to Sunday over this particular weekend or whatever it is. So you have to be on the lookout for that. Again, it's a minor issue. If that's something that you're going to need, you just have to be sure to look out for that and stock up. So just don't be caught off guard. You just walk in the store at a particular weekend and you don't realize that it is a holiday, if it's one of these more solemn holidays where they kind of want to temper things a little bit, and then be shocked by you not being able to get your favorite liquor. So that leads me right into number 22, which is you should never expect in Panama, which is for your favorite products to always be in stock. So if there's a product, whether it is a liquor, a food item, any other item or product, your favorite shower gel, whatever it may be, don't expect for that item to always be in stock. So if it's something that you want or something that you really, really like, of course you can't stock up on everything. But if there's an item that's like, man, this is my stuff, I got to have this, whatever that is, you want to be sure you stock up on it because, you can go in the store and it may not be there. It may not be there for a week, 2 weeks, 1 month, 2 months, possibly never. It may just disappear. So, that's something you have to be on the lookout for, is to not always expect for your favorite products to be in stock. And so the number 21 thing you should never expect in Panama are for restaurants or stores to remain open. I often will close on you just with no warning. And it's such an interesting thing, you kind of start going to a place, oh, they got this new place over here. You start going, you like it, you're like, man, this place is great. Maybe everybody else doesn't think so, because for whatever reason, and this has happened on 3 or 4 occasions since we've been here, the place would just abruptly close. And it's just like, man, what happened? It's like, I thought the place was going to be successful. So that's just something to keep an eye on and not be caught off guard by. So the number 20 thing you should never expect in Panama is to have strong internet and cellular service in the mountainous areas. So this is one thing you want to keep a lookout for. The service is generally very good in the metropolitan areas, in the city, near the main highways, and in some of the secondary roads. But when you get up into the mountains, it may get sketchy, for a few minutes here and there. So not a big deal, but just something that you want to be on the lookout for. I mean, you do have options like things like Skyroam for satellite internet, Skylink, things of this nature that you can maybe use for satellite internet as a backup, just to be sure nothing happens. So if we do use Skyroam as a backup plan for us. So the number 19 thing for you to never expect in Panama is Postal Service. You may remember we covered this in a past video, is that there are no physical addresses in Panama. Therefore, there is no such thing as like the United States Postal Service. So you are going to need, again, and we iterated this in our past video, you are going to need to set up an account with a fast box and mailboxes, etc. Folks who will give you usually it's going to be a Florida address, a Miami address. That is a physical address that you can have things shipped to, which will then get forwarded to Panama, which you then have to go to their store to pick up. So you're not going to really be getting any deliveries directly to your door. There is one website called Tiendamia, which does deliver some items directly to your door, but you're going to pay for it. You're going to pay an increased cost for that, to get that delivered directly to your door. So they link in with some websites such as Etsy, Walmart, and Amazon, where you can order and have things delivered directly to your door. But generally speaking, that's not going to be the case. So that's just something to be aware of when you're moving to Panama. The number 18 thing to never expect in Panama are similar construction codes to what you would experience in the U.S., Canada, or Europe. The plumbing in some cases, especially in some of the older builds, is going to be different. You have a lot of people that are on septic tanks. You'll see a lot of warnings and signs in some different places, or in some people's homes, they may even tell you, as far as flushing the toilet paper, throw it in the trash, don't flush it. You don't really see things in general unless it's a newer build, such as like the GFIs, the safety electrical outlets that you will see within the U.S. I think is mandated to be within 6 feet of any water source. The outlets that have the test buttons on it, those are for safety. Oftentimes in Panama, you will not see those unless it's a newer build, or maybe one of these high-rise condos, you'll see those, but generally you may not. Also, it's nothing for you to see some electrical wires that look like, man, those wires look like they're pretty low, or they're on the ground, or just you're in some establishment and you can look up and see electrical outlets that don't have covers on them, or they have some exposed wiring, things like that. So don't let that catch you off guard, but that is something that you could probably expect to see in Panama. And like I said, in a lot of other countries as well that are still developing nations, such as Panama. So in no way is this list exclusive to Panama. Everything on this list is not exclusive to Panama, because I did catch a lot of flack for that in the 15 negatives of Panama video, but these are things that are still true. So we need to share regardless. So the next item, the number 17 thing to never expect in Panama is for U.S. brands, or I could say Canadian or European brands as well, to cost less than they do in those countries. Any item that is imported generally is going to cost a little bit more, or maybe even significantly more. You'd be lucky if it costs close to the same. So you're going to experience this in the grocery store with certain things, let's just say like laundry detergents. Maybe something like Tide. That's a good example, not to be calling out Tide, but just an easy example. You're going to pay up for something like that. But you can go find a local Panamanian brand that will work just as good. That's less expensive. And it would be less expensive than what you would have paid for that item in the U.S. So you can still save some money there on your groceries and items, but you just have to do some fishing around, some trial and error on trying some of the local brands instead of some of the name brands that you're used to. Now, there are certain cases where you're not going to want to let some things go, or maybe they don't have an equivalent, say like an A1, for example. A1 fairly expensive here, but hey, boy, like A1, so just got to pay up for it. There's certain things, if you decide you want it, you're just going to have to pay up for it. Otherwise, just do some trial and error and search for a local brand that could work for you. It'll be less expensive. Okay, the number 16 thing for you to never expect in Panama is to expect that there are sidewalks, and if you have them, don't expect for them to always just be smooth sidewalks. So a lot of locations outside the city do not have sidewalks. Even in our area in Gorgona, the people walk pretty much in the street. This is something you have to be really, really vigilant about when driving at night. You have to really drive super slow, keep your eyes peeled, because people will be walking along the side of the roads because there are no sidewalks. And even in the city, in the areas where there are sidewalks, the pavement you can expect to be uneven. You can expect to see some maybe manhole covers missing or out of place or things like that. So even if you're on a sidewalk, you have to be extremely careful when walking around. But you should not expect to see sidewalks in Panama. The number 15 thing to never expect in Panama is for the weather to be the same everywhere. Now, this is another one where you say, okay, Lonzo, yeah, of course, that goes without saying. But it's true. People think, you think in Panama, well, Panama is a whole country. Yes, it's only the size of the state of South Carolina or the country of Ireland, but it is still a country, and it does have, mountainous areas, beaches, a wide variety of geological things going on that create a lot of microclimates. So the weather, you can't expect for the weather to be the same in Panama, and I'm talking about even within areas that are within 15 or 20 minutes of each other. You can't expect this. There's oftentimes you have rain in Coronado, which is right next to Gorgona. It may not rain in Gorgona. Or to be pouring rain in the city looks like it's flooding and won't rain out here near the beaches. Again, as we noted in some of our other videos, this area is called Arco Seco, which means dry arc. So just the way that the geography and the mountains are set up, it kind of protects this area from getting a lot of rain. But you go up into certain mountain areas, and Boquete is going to be cooler, more spring-like. So there's a lot of microclimates here, so just don't expect for the weather to be the same. If you check a weather report, I know a lot of folks are nervous coming down here, especially during rainy season, and you look at a weather report and it says, man, there's 60% chance of thunderstorms like every day. Should I still come? Should I still come? Yes, you should still come, because even if it does rain, it's oftentimes not going to wash out your whole day. It may rain in the early afternoon for an hour or two or something like that and stop and clear up. So, even when you're looking at the weather report, you got to just go about your day, make sure you have an umbrella or something with you and just keep it pushing. So don't expect for the weather to be consistent everywhere. The number 14 thing to never expect in Panama are well-stocked and maintained public restrooms. So again, you are in a developing country. You want to take whatever means you can take to not have to use the public restrooms. It's just as simple as that. And then if you do feel like you're going to need to, of course, you're going to always make sure you have, your hand sanitizer with you, maybe even some wipes, some toilet paper or something, because you cannot expect for these things to be present when you walk in a public restroom. They're highly likely will not be. Possible they will be, but likely not. So just something to be aware of with that. So the number 13 thing to never expect in Panama are for the grocery stores to provide you with the bags. Because they do have an effort here, in terms of the environment, to cut down on plastics and things like that. So you're not going to have a situation where you walk into a grocery store or you walk into a Walmart or something back in the States and you see the big rack there that's got all of the plastic bags on it, and I know I used to do it. You get like, 2-3 plastic bags, make sure your stuff doesn't break or whatever. And no, you're not doing that anymore here. Here you have to bring your bags to the store. You have to bring your bags to the store. These will often be like canvas material type bags. They will sell them in the store if you don't have them. Some of them are as cheap as like maybe 15, 20 cents. Some maybe go up to 80 cents or $1, some of the nicer ones. So if you get caught without bags, you're going to have to probably buy some because they will not provide those. There are a couple of high-end stores. Some of these places like maybe some gourmet delis or some places like some of these foodie stores, some of these natural organic type stores where they may provide bags. But generally grocery stores, your department stores, all that, not providing bags. So something to be aware of that's going to really surprise you when you get here, and you are going to forget your bags. Probably the first 4 or 5 times you go to the grocery store, you're going to forget this fact and either leave them at home or not have them in the car or forget to bring them into the store from the car. So just be aware of that. The number 12 thing to never expect in Panama is for the taxis to have meters. So you want to always negotiate your price before stepping into a taxi. As a matter of fact, we recommend that you just take an Uber instead of a taxi. I mean, that way you don't have to really deal with anything in terms of communication issues with the driver. You don't have to worry about this meter issue. So we recommend Uber. But if you do have to jump in a taxi, don't be surprised that they're not metered and that you have to negotiate the prices ahead of time before the trip. So keep that in mind. The number 11 thing to never expect in Panama is high speed limits or speed limits that you would expect to see in the U.S., Canada, or Europe. So, and generally here in the neighborhoods, you may see like 40 kilometers per hour. In the neighborhood, like 25 miles an hour. That's something similar to the States, like, school zone, things like that. But even out on the main highway on the Interamericana, there are several areas of that highway where the speed limit is 60 kilometers an hour. That's only about 37 to 38 miles an hour. I mean, any of us that are used to driving anywhere else, it's hard to not drive faster than 37 to 38 miles an hour. Especially, if it's an area, residential area, that is going to be the speed limit. You may see it bump up to 80 kilometers an hour. So that, a little bit faster. And then in certain areas that are more rural, if the highway is in good shape and it's big 2-lane highway with shoulders on both sides, you may see that speed limit bumped up to 100 kilometers per hour, which is about 62 miles per hour. You're rarely going to see it faster than that. Maybe 110 kilometers an hour, which is like 67 miles an hour. Still very, very much slower than you used to driving. So that's one thing when you get here, you're going to really, really have to train yourself to slow down. You have to train yourself to slow down because the police, they are out. They are out. So that's just something that's just going to take some getting used to. It's another reason why, along with the traffic, that it just takes you like forever to get somewhere here. Whereas, back in the States, Canada, or Europe, you can just zip there, you're driving, 70 miles an hour, 70, 75 miles an hour on the highway. It takes no time to travel a long distance. Here in Panama, that's just not the case. You're going to have to settle in, drive slower, and just expect that it's going to take you longer to get places than you're used to. So the number 10 thing to never expect in Panama, of course, is for people to speak English. I don't care how many of these websites you look at or other vloggers or people tell you, it's like, the people speak English. No, they don't. Panama is a Spanish-speaking country to where 80 to 85% of the people speak Spanish. Now, if those folks working in like some of the higher-end restaurants, higher-end hotels, maybe some of those folks, they're going to have at least 1 or 2, some English-speaking people there. But just in general, in your day-to-day life, this is not something you should expect. You should not expect for people to speak English, so you definitely need to be working on and practicing and learning your Spanish if you plan on living in Panama and if you plan on having the best experience possible. I mean, as we said in other videos, you can make it. You got Google Translate, you got these translator apps. You can make it, but your experience is going to be much better if you learn it. You know, you can have some really engaging conversations with people and really get to know the people. And there are great people here. Panamanians are great. And so it'll really help you to establish more relationships and have a better overall experience if you do learn Spanish. The number 9 thing to never expect in Panama is a vibrant nightlife in all areas. You do have a vibrant nightlife pretty much in Panama City. You have a lot of options there in Casco Viejo, primarily. There's a lot of places you can go. You can listen to some live music. And even in our area, you can do that. You can listen to some live music. But most of these activities are taking place, just say like in our area, these things are taking place like 7, 8 o'clock, just say between 7 and 9 or 7 and 10 p.m. So if you're looking for the late night life, you know, you still want to get out in the streets with the young folks and stuff, that's pretty much going to be an activity for the city. And even then, depending upon your musical tastes and likes, you know, it may not be what you want. You're not going to have a lot of like rap, hip hop, R&B clubs here. Reggaeton was founded in Panama, so you can find something like that. But it may not be consistent. You have to be on the lookout for certain artists. Or certain artists are coming, or they're going to be performing at a certain location, or be at a certain club. You can do that. But they play like a lot of techno type music here. I mean, if you want that, you can get your fill of that into the wee hours of the morning in the city. But otherwise, you should not expect to have a very vibrant nightlife at all times here in Panama. The number 8 thing to never expect in Panama are smooth, pothole-free roads. And we've covered this a little bit before as well, but you should not expect that. Even on a road that appears to be smooth and pothole-free, you got to be on the lookout because one will jump up and get you. So especially if you're driving at night, you really, really want to be on the lookout for this. Also, a lot of times here when folks will repair the roads, you know, they may pour some concrete or something to fill in the holes. They'll put some rocks or something around it so you don't drive through the concrete. But once it gets to be dusk or at night, I mean, you have to keep your eyes peeled for these things because, you know, you could have on the road there more or less some miniature boulders surrounding some area that somebody decided to repair. They decided to, you know, try to be helpful and repair it, but could cause some damage to somebody that's not paying attention and runs into one of these rocks that they use to kind of mark that area. So that's just something you want to be on the lookout for. The number 7 thing to never expect in Panama is well-marked signage for tourist attractions. Maybe just in general, but I say this for tourist attractions because I'm speaking to an audience that's coming down to Panama to do some exploratory trips. You're going to come down, you're going to want to go see some of the tourist attractions. So speaking from that standpoint, you cannot expect, well-marked signage if you're trying to get somewhere on your own, if you're not on a tour. I mean, you really have to make sure you check some of these, Facebook groups, different things like that for folks that have been to these locations before that can give you some directions. And just make sure you have, ways. It may or may not always, when it comes to getting to some of these locations, be perfect. So just be prepared as much as you can when you're getting ready to go to some of these tourist attractions, especially if you're talking about some of these waterfalls. Some of these things are somewhat off the beaten path. So you just want to make sure you can know really for sure how to get there. That's going to cut down on your frustrations quite a bit for you to be somewhere right in the area of the attraction that you're trying to go to and not be able to find it for 15, 20 minutes or whatever. This is something, I'm speaking out of experience really on almost all of this stuff because this is something that has happened to us, and specifically when we were trying to find La Laguna San Carlos. Couldn't find it. Had to retreat, come back get the information, come back another day. So that's one thing you want to be on the lookout for. So the number 6 thing you should never expect in Panama is easy access for individuals with disabilities. Panama needs a lot of work in this area. You may want to check out our sister on Abroad Ability. She highlights these things quite often as someone who's dealing with a disability, has a couple of videos out there about it that you all are going to want to check out if this is something that impacts you. As it stands right now, it's something that you want to be a lookout for, as it could be an issue for you. So you want to try to investigate the situation wherever it is that you're going to be going. Try to get as much information about it if you're going to need some accessibility there. So the number 5 thing to never expect in Panama is for all establishments to be open on Mondays. For whatever reason, Monday is the day a lot of things are closed here. I know you may be used to that day being Sunday in the States, Canada, and Europe. In Panama, a lot of people work through Saturday. Some work Monday through Friday. A lot of them still work on Saturday. So Sunday's a day off. So Sunday is the primary day where a lot of the beaches are going to be more crowded. People are going to be out. And so because people are off, a lot of these establishments don't want to miss out on making that money. If they can have their restaurant open or their business open, they're going to do so. And so Monday is the day instead of Sunday that you'll find that a lot of these places are closed. So it's something that you want to check out. There's been times where we wanted to hit a certain restaurants or something like that in the city. Maybe we stayed for the weekend, decided to stay an extra day. It's like, okay, before we leave, we're going to hit, this place. And then you get there and it's closed. So just something you want to just be aware of. Obviously, the theme here in Panama is to get as much information as you can ahead of time so that you can plan your day out or plan your trip out so that there aren't any surprises. So that's the overall arching theme here with a lot of these items, as you can see. The number 4 thing to never expect in Panama, and this one burns me up to a crisp, is that you should never expect for your car to not get dinged or bumped. So, here in Panama, everything is a little bit tighter. The lanes are a little more narrow. The parking spaces are absolutely, in most cases, more narrow. Even the area between the lanes of the parking spaces, or the rows of the parking spaces, not as much space for people who are trying to back out, or even if you're trying to turn into a parking space. So you can fully expect for your car to get dinged or bumped here. It's going to happen. It doesn't matter if you try to park away from people. It's going to happen eventually, because a lot of times here, some of these parking lots, you may not have the space, and they may not be big enough space to park away from everyone. You'll be lucky to find a parking space in some areas. So at some point, your car is going to get dinged or bumped or whatever, and you're going to just show up and be like, man, what the heck is that? Where did that come from? Just got to get ready for it. It's frustrating, but it definitely happens, and your boy definitely needs some touch-up paint. So, the number 3 thing to never expect in Panama is a high level of customer service. This, again, is something that Panama is working on, but compared to even a lot of other Latin countries, say like Mexico, for example, customer service exemplary there. For the most part. But in Panama, this is something that definitely still needs some work. It's something that we covered in some past videos. Not going to spend a lot of time on it here, but definitely needs some improvement for the customer service. The number 2 thing to never expect in Panama are efficient and streamlined administrative processes. For the most part, when you're dealing with government offices, agencies, and things like that. You can expect to be in lines, and some long lines. You can expect some long waits, even at banks, things that you don't feel like should take a long time. You're like, why is this taking this long? It's going to take a while in most instances. Every government office that you go to, you're going to need 3, 4, 5 copies of whatever document it is that you need. Don't mess around. Just take like 4 or 5 copies of each thing, because apparently whenever you get to the window, if they told you to bring 2 copies, they're going to need 3. They're going to like, this office needs a copy, this other office needs a copy, this office needs a copy. So you're like, man, y'all can't scan this stuff in and just send it via email to somebody? No. So you just have to be prepared. Just bring 4 or 5 copies of everything with you. Or else you're going to be running outside of that office after waiting in line. You're going to be running outside at our office looking for a place where you can get things copied. And you're usually gonna find one or two that's close to these government offices because they know people need copies. I mean, we've even been to some government offices where there's a lady basically like had a printer set up out of the back of her van making copies, making money off of people making copies. And you cannot knock her on the hustle for that. But just be prepared when it comes to that some of the, processes, even though, like I said, they're working on it, it's a developing country, they're not fully up to date on some of these things. So, the number one thing for you to never expect in Panama, what do y'all think it is? The number one thing for y'all to never expect in Panama is for everything to operate on a strict schedule. Okay? You can fully expect for people to not be on time, and you can expect for events to not start on time. And that's just the way it is. It's a sad state of affairs, but that's the way it is. If you're a person that's always prompt, you get there, you're going to be frustrated because you're going to be sitting around for 20, 25 minutes, half hour, 40, 45 minutes, waiting for the event to start. Now, this isn't always true. I mean, none of these things should be taken with like 100%, occurrence rate or whatever. We're just giving you like the most likely outcome here. So I'm not saying that every event doesn't start on time or whatever, but oftentimes that is going to be the case, and that is something that you should expect here. So hopefully that doesn't become a point of frustration for you all. At times it may be. Just being honest with you on that, it may be. So with that is the 25 things you should never expect in Panama. We want to ask you all to now subscribe, leave a comment below, hit the notification bell so you can be notified of our future videos, and we will catch you all on the next one.